Did you know there is a university in Tennessee where hundreds of dead bodies are left rotting in the woods on purpose? That the U.S. government built a secret city here that consumed more electricity than New York City, but didn't appear on any map? And that a massive earthquake once forced the Mississippi River to flow backward to create a new lake? Tennessee isn't just the home of country music and Dolly Parton. It's the birthplace of atomic bombs, fainting goats, swearing parrots, and violent geological anomalies. If you love discovering the weirdest corners of America, hit that subscribe button, because today we are counting down 50 Tennessee facts that prove the volunteer state is hiding some dark secrets. And by number 1, you will see why this state defies the laws of physics. Let's get right into it. At number 50, Tennessee is the ultimate neighbor. It is tied with Missouri for the most neighboring states in the entire U.S., touching exactly 8 different borders. Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Missouri all crowd around it. If you look at a map, Tennessee is basically the glue holding the American South together. It's a geographical anomaly that makes it a cultural crossroads, absorbing influences from the Deep South, the Appalachians, and the Midwest all at once. Number 49. Mountain Dew wasn't invented to help gamers stay up all night. It was invented in Knoxville in the 1940s, specifically as a mixer for whiskey. The term Mountain Dew was actually 19th century slang for high-proof moonshine. The original formula was created by 2 brothers, Barney and Allie Hartman, who had trouble finding their preferred soda to mix with their liquor. So they just made their own. It wasn't until Pepsi bought the brand years later that it became the neon green. At number 48, one of the sweetest treats on earth was invented in Nashville in 1897. But here is the irony that feels illegal. Cotton candy was invented by a dentist. Dr. William Morrison, a dentist, teamed up with a confectioner to create a machine that spun heated sugar through a screen. They originally called it Fairy Floss and debuted at the 1904 World's Fair, selling over 68,000 boxes. A dentist inventing pure spun sugar is the ultimate job security scheme. Number 47. If your car breaks down today, you call a tow truck. But before 1916, if your car went into a ditch, it just stayed there. The tow truck was invented in Chattanooga by Ernest Holmes. After struggling for 8 hours to pull a friend's Ford out of a creek using blocks and ropes, Holmes realized there had to be a better way. He bolted a chain and pulley system onto the back of his 1913 Cadillac, creating the world's first wrecker. Every AAA truck on the road today traces its DNA back to that Chattanooga garage. At number 46, Tennessee is the birthplace of the tiny game of frustrations, miniature golf. The first patented mini golf course, known as Tom Thumb Golf, was created on Lookout Mountain in 1927. The inventor, Garnet Carter, originally built the course to entertain guests at his hotel, who were too terrible at golf to play the big course. It became a national craze almost overnight. Number 45. The Moon Pie. It's a Southern icon, but its origin story is pure working-class genius. It was invented in Chattanooga in 1917 at the Chattanooga Bakery. The story goes that a coal miner asked a traveling salesman for a snack that was solid enough to fit in his lunch pail, but filling enough to satisfy a hard day's work. When asked how big it should be, the miner looked up at the night sky, framed the moon with his hands, and said, "About that big." The rest is marshmallow-filled history. At number 44, before the Golden Arches took over the world, the South had Crystal, founded in Chattanooga in 1932 during the Great Depression. Crystal is the 7th oldest hamburger chain in the United States. They are famous for their small, square burgers that you buy by the sackful. They predate McDonald's and Burger King, proving that Tennessee was pioneering fast food before it was cool. Number 43. Tennessee literally invented the way you shop for groceries. Before 1916, you didn't walk through aisles. You handed a list to a clerk who fetched your items for you. Then, Clarence Saunders opened the first Piggly Wiggly in Memphis. He introduced the radical concept of self-service, giving customers baskets and letting them pick their own products from shelves. It was a psychological revolution that changed consumerism forever. If you are pushing a cart today, you have Memphis to thank. At number 42, the Bristol Motor Speedway is nicknamed the last great Coliseum. For a reason. This half-mile track is so steep, banked at up to 28 degrees, that it is physically difficult to walk up the asphalt without slipping. It is one of the loudest sports venues on planet Earth. The noise gets trapped inside the bowl-shaped stadium, creating a roar that rivals a jet engine takeoff. It fits over 146,000 people, making it one of the largest amphitheaters of any kind in the world. Number 41. Tennessee's official state reptile is the eastern box turtle. While the state is famous for fast cars and loud music, they chose a creature that lives for up to 100 years and rarely travels more than a mile from where it was born. It's a reminder that in a state full of explosives and whiskey, sometimes you just need a shell. At number 40, Tennessee lawmakers apparently had a serious problem with marine conservation in the 1800s. It is strictly illegal to hunt whales in the state of Tennessee. Now, you might be looking at a map and noticing a slight issue with that. Tennessee is landlocked. It is over 500 miles from the nearest ocean. The chances of a humpback whale swimming up the Mississippi River are effectively zero. But if one ever does, it is legally protected. This law is a relic of old wildlife statutes where legislators likely copy-pasted laws from coastal states without reading the fine print. Number 39. While you can't hunt whales, you can absolutely eat what you hit with your car. In Tennessee, it is perfectly legal to collect and eat roadkill. The law was passed to waste not, want not, allowing citizens to take home deer, turkey, or bears that have been accidentally struck by vehicles. It sounds like a joke, but it's actually a conservation effort to prevent perfectly good meat from rotting on the side of the highway. Just remember to report the accident first before you fire up the grill. At number 38, do not, under any circumstances, carry a skunk across the state line. It is illegal to smuggle live skunks into Tennessee. This law exists because skunks are primary carriers of rabies, and the state government wanted to stop people from keeping them as exotic pets. Apparently, enough people were trying to import stink badgers that they had to write a specific law to stop it. Number 37. For decades, the innocent game of pinball was considered a gambling device and was illegal in Nashville until the ban was lifted in the 1960s. Playing pinball was seen as a moral corruption of the youth. The city treated these machines with the same suspicion as slot machines. If you were a rebellious teenager in 1950s Nashville, your crime of choice wasn't drag racing. It was hitting a silver ball with flippers. At number 36, anglers listen up. It is technically illegal to catch a fish using a lasso. We have no idea who tried this, or how they even managed to rope a trout underwater, but they ruined it for everyone. Someone, somewhere in Tennessee history, went fishing with a cowboy rope and was so successful, or so dangerous, that the government had to step in. Number 35. Moving from weird laws to weird animals, Marshall County, Tennessee is the home of the world-famous fainting goat. These are officially known as myotonic goats. But here is the biological twist. They don't actually faint. They remain fully conscious. When they get scared or excited, a genetic condition causes their muscles to lock up instantly. Their legs go stiff as boards, and they tip over like statues. It doesn't hurt them, but it is one of the strangest evolutionary traits in the animal kingdom. At number 34, the small town of Kenton is home to a genetic rarity that is legally protected. It is the home of the white squirrels. These aren't just one or two freaks of nature. There is a thriving population of albino squirrels here. The town takes them so seriously that there is a strict fine for harming one. While the rest of America ignores squirrels, Kenton treats them like royalty. Number 33. You don't expect to see elephants in the American South, but Hohenwald, Tennessee is home to the Elephant Sanctuary. It is the largest natural habitat refuge for captive elephants in the United States. This isn't a zoo. It is a retirement home for elephants rescued from circuses and zoos. They roam over 2,700 acres of protected land, free from chains and performances. The public actually isn't allowed to visit, because the whole point is to finally leave these animals alone. At number 32, the state has its own horse breed that walks funny on purpose. The Tennessee walking horse was bred here for plantation owners who needed to ride all day without getting sore. The horse performs a unique running walk, where it glides over the ground rather than bouncing. It is the luxury sedan of the 19th century transportation world. At number 31, the Great Smoky Mountains host a biological light show that happens almost nowhere else on Earth. For a few weeks every summer, the fireflies here don't just blink randomly, they blink in unison. Thousands of lightning bugs synchronize their flashes, lighting up the forest in total darkness like a biological rave. Scientists still aren't 100% sure how they coordinate it, but seeing an entire forest pulse with light at the exact same second is something straight out of a fantasy movie. At number 30, if you want to see the world, head to Clingman's Dome at 6,643 feet. It is the highest point in Tennessee. The observation tower looks like a flying saucer landed on the mountain peak, but the real magic is the visibility. On a clear, pollution-free day, you can stand in one spot and see 7 different states: Tennessee, North Carolina, Kentucky, South Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, and Alabama. It is one of the few places in America where a single glance covers that much political geography. Number 29. Nashville calls itself Music City, but that is actually a bit of a stolen title. The true Big Bang of country music happened in Bristol, Tennessee in 1927. A producer named Ralph Peer held the Bristol Sessions, recording the Carter Family and Jimmie Rodgers for the first time. Johnny Cash himself called these sessions the single most important event in the history of country music. Nashville got the fame, but Bristol did the work. At number 28, Graceland is the second most visited house in America, trailing only the White House. But Elvis Presley didn't just live there. He filled it with absurd luxury. The king bought a 1928 Kimball grand piano, and, because he was Elvis, decided it wasn't fancy enough. He had the entire thing covered in 24-karat gold leaf. It still sits in the music room today, a glittering monument to rock and roll excess. Number 27. Speaking of rock and roll, Memphis is home to the $1 Million Quartet. On December 4th, 1956, a sheer coincidence occurred at Sun Records. Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins all happened to be in the same room at the same time. The recording session was impromptu, unrehearsed, and completely accidental. Yet it captured the 4 greatest voices of the era in a single room. It is arguably the most valuable jam session in history. At number 26, Dolly Parton is the patron saint of Tennessee, but her biggest contribution isn't music, it's literacy. Her Imagination Library program sends a free book every single month to children from birth until they start school. She started it just for kids in Sevier County, but it grew into a global juggernaut that has gifted over 200 million books. She is technically one of the world's largest literary distributors. Number 25. The Grand Ole Opry isn't just a concert. It is the longest-running radio broadcast in U.S. history. It has been on the air every single week since 1925. It survived the Great Depression, World War II, and the transition to the Internet age without missing a beat. At number 24, you don't need to go to Greece to see ancient ruins. Nashville has the world's only full-scale reproduction of the Greek Parthenon. It was built for the 1897 Centennial Exposition to celebrate Tennessee's 100th birthday. The locals loved it so much they refused to tear it down. Inside stands a 42-foot-tall gold-leafed statue of Athena, the tallest indoor sculpture in the Western world. It is completely surreal to find a pagan temple in the middle of the Bible Belt. Number 23. Memphis contains the 10th largest pyramid in the world, but unlike the ones in Egypt, this one sells fishing rods. The Memphis Pyramid sat abandoned for years, a giant metal tomb on the riverfront, until Bass Pro Shops bought it. Now it contains a cypress swamp, live alligators, a bowling alley, and the tallest freestanding elevator in America. It is a monument to redneck luxury that has to be seen to be believed. At number 22, Lookout Mountain hides a geological secret. Ruby Falls is the tallest and deepest underground waterfall open to the public in the United States. You have to take an elevator 1,120 feet down into the limestone rock to see a 145-foot waterfall crashing into a subterranean pool. It was discovered by accident in 1928 by a man crawling through a cave opening barely 18 inches high. Number 21. If you have ever driven in the South, you have seen the barns painted with Sea Rock City. This was one of the first viral marketing campaigns in history. In the 1930s, the attraction's founder offered to paint farmers' barns for free, as long as he could paint his slogan on the roof. It turned a roadside rock garden into a national icon, proving that paint and persistence can build an empire. At number 20, Sweetwater, Tennessee is hiding the largest underground lake in the United States. It's called the Lost Sea. This isn't just a damp cave puddle. It is a massive body of water located 140 feet below ground. It is so large that you can actually take a glass-bottom boat tour across it. The full extent of the lake is still unknown. Divers have explored nearly 13 acres of water without finding the end of the chamber. It's an ocean buried in the dark. Number 19. If you visit Reelfoot Lake, you will notice something strange. Sticking out of the water are thousands of submerged cypress stumps. It looks like a flooded forest, because that is exactly what it is. This lake didn't exist 200 years ago. It was formed violently during the New Madrid earthquakes, which snapped trees in half and sank the land. We will get to the full insane story of that earthquake at number 1. But today, Reelfoot stands as a ghostly reminder of when the ground simply swallowed a forest whole. At number 18, Tennessee was the site of perhaps the worst business deal in history. In 1899, 2 lawyers from Chattanooga approached the owner of Coca-Cola, Asa Candler, about bottling his soda. At the time, Coke was only sold at soda fountains. Candler thought bottling was a stupid idea that would never catch on, so he sold the exclusive bottling rights for exactly $1. That $1 contract in Chattanooga created the modern Coca-Cola empire and made the lawyers fabulously wealthy. Number 17. The Jack Daniel's Paradox. Jack Daniel's is the best-selling American whiskey in the world. It is a brand built on Tennessee heritage. But here is the twist. It is produced in Moore County, which is a dry county. That means it is illegal to buy or sell alcohol there. You can tour the distillery and smell the mash, but you cannot legally buy a bottle of Jack Daniel's in the very town where it is made. It is a loophole of irony that has existed since Prohibition. At number 16, motorcyclists call it the Dragon. U.S. Route 129 borders Tennessee and North Carolina and features 318 curves in just 11 miles. It is widely considered the most dangerous and exhilarating motorcycle road in America. There are no intersecting roads and no driveways, just 11 miles of relentless, sharp asphalt twists. The Tree of Shame at the route's end is decorated with the broken motorcycle parts of riders who underestimated the curves. Number 15. We usually associate environmental disasters with modern times, but in the 1800s, the Copper Basin in Tennessee became the only man-made desert in the humid South. Copper mining and smelting released so much sulfur dioxide that it killed every single plant in a 50-square-mile area. The lush forest turned into a red, barren moonscape of eroded soil that was reportedly visible from space. It took decades of reforestation efforts to finally turn the red desert green again. At number 14, the legend of Casey Jones isn't just a folk song. He was a real hero from Jackson, Tennessee. In 1900, the railroad engineer stayed on board his colliding train to hit the brakes, sacrificing his own life to save the passengers in the cars behind him. He was the only fatality in the wreck. Number 13. Andrew Jackson's home, the Hermitage, features a driveway that is shaped exactly like a guitar. Tourists love it because it fits the Nashville vibe perfectly. But here is the funny part. Jackson died long before country music existed. The driveway was actually designed to look like a violin or fiddle, which was the popular instrument of his time. Over time, as Nashville became Music City, people just assumed the old general was a time-traveling rock star. At number 12, we have the darkest fact on this list. In 1916, a circus elephant named Mary killed a handler in the town of Kingsport. In a fit of mob justice, the townspeople decided to execute the animal, but they didn't shoot her. They used a railway crane to hang the 5-ton elephant in front of a crowd of 2,500 people. Murderous Mary remains a grim reminder of a very different time in history. Number 11. If you look at the Nashville skyline, one building stares back at you. The AT&T building is universally nicknamed the Batman building because its twin spires look exactly like the superhero's cowl. Or, if you are a lord, of the Rings fan, the Eye of Sauron. It dominates the city's visual identity, proving that even corporate architecture in Tennessee has a sense of theatrical drama. We have reached the top 10. These are the facts that defy logic, history, and sometimes the laws of physics. At number 10, Tennessee almost wasn't Tennessee. It was almost the state of Franklin. In 1784, 8 counties declared independence and tried to become the 14th American colony. They created a constitution, elected a governor, John Sevier, and even set up a barter system where you could pay taxes with deer skins and brandy. The state collapsed after 4 years of infighting and was absorbed back into the fold. Tennessee is basically America's Plan B. Number 9. The Lorraine Motel in Memphis is frozen in 1968. This is the site of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today, it is the National Civil Rights Museum, but the balcony and room 306 have been preserved exactly as they were on that tragic day. It stands as a powerful, haunting time capsule in the middle of a modern city. At number 8, the only successful armed rebellion on U.S. soil since the Civil War happened here. The Battle of Athens in 1946. When World War II veterans returned home to McMinn County, they found a corrupt sheriff rigging elections and brutalizing citizens. The veterans didn't protest. They broke into the National Guard armory, stole machine guns, laid siege to the jail, and literally blew the door off with dynamite. They overthrew the local government overnight and restored fair elections. Number 7. Missouri calls itself the Cave State, but that is a lie. Tennessee is the real king of the underground. The state sits on a massive limestone shelf that has dissolved over millions of years, creating over 10,000 documented caves, the most of any state in the U.S. The ground beneath Tennessee is essentially Swiss cheese. At number 6, the Bell Witch is the most documented haunting in American history. Between 1817 and 1821, the Bell family was tormented by a violent poltergeist. The story became so famous that future President Andrew Jackson visited to investigate. According to legend, his wagon wheels mysteriously locked up on the property. Jackson allegedly said, "I had rather face the entire British Army than to spend another night with the Bell Witch." Number 5. The University of Tennessee is home to the Body Farm. It sounds like a horror movie set, but it is a world-famous scientific facility. Here, human corpses are left in the woods, locked in car trunks, and buried in shallow graves. On purpose. Forensic anthropologists study how the bodies decompose in different environments to help police solve murders. It is the birthplace of modern forensic science, but it is definitely the creepiest campus tour in America. At number 4, Dayton, Tennessee was the battleground for science versus religion. The 1925 Scopes monkey trial saw a high school teacher prosecuted for teaching evolution. It was the trial of the century, featuring legal giants Clarence Darrow and William Jennings Bryan. It was the first American trial ever broadcast live on the radio, putting Tennessee at the center of a global debate that still continues today. Number 3. Andrew Jackson was a tough president, and apparently so was his pet. Jackson's African gray parrot, Pole, had to be forcibly removed from Jackson's funeral. Why? Because the bird wouldn't stop screaming profanities. It had learned a colorful vocabulary from the former president and decided the funeral was the perfect time to show it off. At number 2, the U.S. government built a secret city that didn't exist. In 1942, the Manhattan Project seized 59,000 acres in Oak Ridge. The population exploded from 3,000 to 75,000 in months. It consumed more electricity than New York City, yet it appeared on no maps. Workers were enriching uranium for the little boy atomic bomb, but were told only, "What you see here, what you do here, let it stay here." It was a city of 75,000 ghosts building the end of the war. And at number 1, the event that broke the Mississippi River. In 1811 and 1812, the New Madrid earthquake struck with such force, estimated magnitude 8.0 plus, that they rang church bells as far away as Boston. The ground upheaved so violently that the mighty Mississippi River actually flowed backward for several hours. The rushing water filled a massive depression, creating Reelfoot Lake permanently. It is the only time in recorded history that an earthquake forced a major river to reverse course and create a new geographical feature. From atomic secrets to backward rivers, Tennessee is a state where history and geology refuse to follow the rules. Which fact surprised you the most? Drop a comment below. If you want more deep dives into the weirdest places on Earth, smash that subscribe button. See you in the next one.